Welcome to Sultry and Sacred, the art and science of pleasure, intimacy, and self-mastery. The space where passion meets purpose and pleasure becomes power.
Here, we unravel the mysteries of love, sex, and connection, blending soulful wisdom with raw, unapologetic truth.
Let's ignite your desires, awaken your essence, and embrace intimacy as the ultimate alchemy. Get ready to explore what's both sultry and sacred. And hello, and welcome back on a new episode of Sultry and Sacred. Today, we are talking about love languages. We notice that it's a lot in the media these days. And before we go into it, because we have a completely different take on it, and I think you're going to love our take, right? Maybe it's a cocky from my side, but believe me, keep listening and you'll understand. Before we begin, please share, please subscribe, please give us feedback, and please encourage us to keep going. Because this is what we want to do. We want to keep going. We want to talk about all the difficult topics when it comes to sex and relationships. There's so much about these topics out there, and I feel that we have something different to say.
Yeah. Show us some love.
Show us some love. Yes. Show us some love because we are all about the love. Cindy, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm coming back from moving homes and the chaos that ensues, and then now it's the order time, right? And I love this phase. It's back to normal again, thankfully. So I'm grateful to be here and talking again about my favorite topic, the love languages.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you something, Cindy. What is the best gift you ever received?
The best gift, I believe the best gift that I have ever received was intentional eye contact with someone I love, and they loved me back, and it was a memory burn of that sort.
Oh, I like that. Memory burn. That's an interesting expression. We're going to use this one, I think, today. Thank you for that. I think that's the whole thing, is the memory burn, because oftentimes we often meet with partners who they say, they express their love in their own way and they try to show love and express their love for their loved one, but it doesn't land. It's not appreciated. It doesn't feel the way it was meant to be. It was given. It's not received in the same way it was given, right? And that's not because people are unappreciative, or it's not because people don't love each other. No, it's because each one of us is programmed and designed in such a way that very specific energies around the love language, we are designed to receive specific energies when it comes to love. And if it doesn't land in that specific way, it doesn't land.
Yeah.
It becomes an effort.
Yes. So from what I'm hearing is that we have a lot of facets when it comes to love language. And I know we spoke about this when we were discussing the episode, but I think it's good to mention it, that the love language that is in the media, as you mentioned, is very limited, is very restricted. It's a good stepping stone to what love language really is in the bigger meaning. And this is what we're going to be exploring today.
Absolutely.
And I'm so excited for this because since we started talking about this, I would grab pen and paper and write, this is love language as well. It's love language as well. And it's way beyond the 5 languages of love that is known here, which is basically, as far as I remember, it's words of affirmation, touch, service, quality time, and gifts.
Correct, yes. So the love language, the famous love language books written by a guy called Gary Chapman, and he runs a lot of workshops around it and so on. And it's always, no offense, guys, but when it's designed by a man, there is definitely limitations, right? You always need the female perspective.
Sure.
and perhaps even a spiritual one, in order to understand it completely, because it's not the physical or the mind, it's not a mental or just emotional or physical engagement with the gift. There is a spiritual connection and element too, a dimension that's not really looked at, and it must be looked at. And this is what we're looking at today. So Gary Chapman proposed that there are 5 love languages, the ones that you've just mentioned, and he created a questionnaire that goes on forever, where you keep choosing between like one or two, keeps giving you 2 options and you have to choose which one. And I find these questionnaires, it's very similar to all personality questionnaires or psychological questionnaires, right? Depends really on your mood of the day, how you feel the day, and that's how it will impact your answers. And therefore, there's this element of changeability. Not consistent, it's not constant, it's not permanent. It changes with time, and it changes with mood, and it changes with you as you grow and go through different phases.
Yeah.
Now, the way I look at love languages is through astrology. For me, as you all know, astrology is consistent. It's about you. It's your natal blueprint, and it's easy to understand and interpret when you understand the archetypes. And it's archetypal energy. So, for example, right, I know that we are both Virgos. I know that we both have Venus in Virgo, right? There's a layering here. So I'm looking at, first of all, our core soul. We are Virgos. So, and on a very basic level, we love thoughtful gifts. We love things to have meaning. If you're giving me something, like the way you just described your most favorite gift, just as a look in the eye, an eye gaze from someone you love, and it created a memory burn, right? It can be as simple as that. Why? Because it's thoughtful. Yeah. Meant something to you. And then another layer on top of that is Venus, looking at the Venus sign. Where is she? And for you, again, it's in Virgo. And therefore, acts of service is very important, meaningful connection, thoughtful gestures. These are your ultimate love languages. It's not one or the other, right? But at its core, it needs to be thoughtful. And I bet you anything, you never give random gifts.
No. Never. And that's what pains me.
How long does it take you to figure out a gift?
Oh my God. I have all my friends and everyone that I know, their birthday months in advance, and that actually the reminder comes to me 6 months in advance to start thinking about someone's gift.
So Virgo. Exactly. And I'm one of those people, if I can't think of something thoughtful, I won't give anything. Unless I will say this to the person, like I'm talking about birthdays, for example, or special occasions. I will say to them, I'm sorry, I couldn't find you the right gift yet, so give me time.
Yeah.
Because I know that when I get it, it's going to mean something. I'm all about that meaning, what is the impact of it? And so far, touch wood, it's always been received with gratitude.
I would expect that. Sorry, it's the cocky Virgo here, but yeah, I think that our gifts are perfect.
Exactly. So let's think about what, so if we are now then talking about what are the actual love languages, there are, on a very basic level, when we're looking at the archetypes, it's all about the 4 elements. When we're looking at the zodiac and archetypes, it's about earth, fire, water, air.
Now, let me stop you here, because what is archetypes? Because I think this is something that we can actually dive deeper, define a bit, so that people would be on the same page as we.
Okay. What are the archetypes? That's a very good question. Not one that I'm prepared for, but I will try and make it up. Not make it up, but I'll try and translate how I see archetypes. Archetypes, the way Carl Jung, for example, talked about them, are like energies of stories. They are stories. They're created like stories so that we can understand them, human beings. But they're not necessarily that way. They are basically energies. And when we are looking at like the basic archetypes, the way Jung described them, so you have the mother archetype, for example. We all agree that a mother, it doesn't matter where in the world you go, when you say the word mother, specific images and symbols and understandings and meanings come with that word, right? Same goes with father, same goes with warrior, maiden, hero. These are all universal blueprints, energetic blueprints that we all understand as concepts in our mind, almost like the way we understand language. When you break down language, language is actually symbols that we've given sounds and then formulated into a complete system where we communicate with one another, right? Same goes with tree, plant, animal, etc. Codes. That's a good word. Codes. So I would say archetype is like a code. Codes are encoded within us on a soul, and therefore we perform from them. We act and live from these archetypes, right?
Yeah.
So when we're looking at the zodiac, it's not as simple as saying, oh, she's a Virgo or she's a Leo, or he's a Libra, and therefore it's a very straightforward, cookie cut kind of way of looking at it. It's nothing like that at all. It's a lot more complex than that, because you're just looking at the sun when you're talking about that. There's how many other planets? 9 other planets that you have to look at, and these are just the main planets. We're not even looking at the fixed planets. We're not looking at we're talking about galaxies, billions and billions of constellations. But for our own very limited human way of seeing things, if we just even look at it from that basic blueprint, we get a lot of information from it.
Yeah, I love that. And when usually I talk with my clients in regards of the archetypes, I love to tell them that these are lenses that we get to use when we're looking at situations, or one of them would be coming up in certain situations. And a lot of times they would be the ones that we are used to using or used to going to, and how we can activate the other archetypes within us that would make us more able to handle situations or to go into different elements. And basically, it's trying to, as much as possible, master the archetypes that we are and have in order for them to serve us the way that we want, instead of them taking the wheel. We sometimes give them that and ask them to do that on behalf of us. So it usually helps when we talk in the sense of archetypes, that people will understand that we have set of lenses, energies, and we can utilize whatever works for us in that sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they're universally recognized. And that's why a lot of leadership coaches, for example, as well as therapists, we talk about these archetypes all the time, and we help clients to activate, or to recognize, first of all, what are the archetypes that are working through them right now, and therefore be able to kind of disengage a little bit and lean into a different archetype and activate that for them. It's not something that is fixed. It's something that it's fluid, and you can move through it in different ways. So that's why I love the concept of archetypes very powerfully. And that's why astrology speaks so powerfully to me, because it's all about archetypes, all about the story. One of my teachers said something beautiful. She said to me, the universe is made up of maths and myths. That is exactly how I experience the world around me. Maths and myths. And one of my favorite quotes also, I think, is Carl Jung. I need to double check, but I think it was he who said, the archetypes don't live within us. We live within them. And it just tells you how, first of all, how massive they are as energies, how powerful they are. And for me, it just speaks of how our lives are all about the stories. It's all about the stories. It's all about the meanings. And it's just really powerful when we adopt a empowering story in our lives and let go of the disempowering stories.
So that means that, from how I feel it and how I've been experiencing it in my life, that each archetype has their own love language.
Exactly. Now you're talking. So yeah, shall we go and explore some examples? All right. So so I wanted to break it down into elements, because I don't think we have the time to go into every zodiac sign. But I am writing the book on it, so hopefully you'll read that soon.
Or they can reach out to you to have their own reading.
Absolutely, for sure. Thank you. So let's look at the elements. So for example, earth signs. Earth signs, Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus. These earth signs are very practical. Very practical. If you're going, their love language is, give me something I can use that's going to be useful to me. Something that has meaning that I can use in a practical way. And it also shows thought. It shows that you understand what what I do, what you understand how I like to do things and what I need. If you're going to give me something abstract, I'm like, what am I going to do with this? So there you go. If you have an earth sign lover or partner, give them something thoughtful, something practical, something that they can use easily. For me, I don't know how you feel about this, Cinderella, but when you're talking about the 5 love languages, I feel we need all of them.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Right?
I just want to pause in the sense of, now I'm Virgo, so I'm earthy, and I once received the gift as cooking pan.
Okay. How did you feel about it?
I was offended, honestly. I was offended. So it's something practical, but it felt like it wasn't fast to me because the person giving it to me said, because all your pans are scratched. And I'm like, so you decided to get me one pan that will solve that problem, and a pan that I don't like, I don't know how it looks like, and you just decided that it looks like it's making their life easier, not mine.
Yeah. It needs to feel personalized, doesn't it? Like it's for me, not for you. Yes, it's practical, but practical for who? Because the element there that was missing for you as a Virgo was thoughtfulness.
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it? And this is it, you see, these different little variants, little details that make all the difference from one archetype to another.
Yeah.
So yes, broadly speaking, for earth signs, it needs to be practical, it needs to be thoughtful, etc. But because your Venus is in Virgo, that's the other layer, it means that I want you to give me something that expresses that you value me. How do you value me? Okay, sure, you can get me a frying pan, but how is that showing me value from me? Right? So that's the earth signs. Now, when it comes to water signs, water is emotion, fluidity. It needs to have like an emotional touch to it. Water signs are very sentimental, extremely sentimental. So it has to have a sentimental value.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like. And it could look like so many things. It could look like flowers. It could look like a surprise date. The higher the emotional value, the more the memory burn, as you put it.
Yeah.
And then you have fire signs. Fire signs. Fire is the expression of the divine spark. And the divine spark is creative. It wants creativity. It wants surprise. Sometimes it wants shock value. So give me something that is going to, that I'm going to show off to the world. Because fire likes to show off as well. It's fire. It's the whole show, And then you have air signs. Now, air signs are interesting because air is mental energy, thoughtfulness, thinking. So give me something that will engage my mind. Give me something that will make me think. A book, maybe. Like that's like the most basic thing, a book. But then it could be other things. You could build up on that.
Yeah.
And that's just like, this is just a basic description of the very, like on an elemental basis. Obviously, there are layers to it. So we're looking at the sun sign, core element, but then it's important to look at the Venus sign. Where is the Venus sign and how does she express herself? And then how do you synthesize these two and come up with the perfect gift? And in case you're wondering why we talk about the perfect gift or the perfect love language, we're 2 Virgos.
So perfect is a very common word for us.
This is our love language with you. How we express our love to you is that we are looking at the details for you. We're trying to serve you the most intricate and detailed version of what we'd like you to know.
Yeah, and I love that. And I believe that if we're going to tie it together in a way, that one of the most important love languages or giving or receiving is self-love, self-knowing. So how can I express or know what my favorite gift is if I don't know what love language speaks? So it's always being aware also of which part in my life I am, so that I know. So for instance, on something that is astrologically, I need to know where am I, which Venus, where is she in my chart, so I can understand and I can communicate that this is actually the perfect gift for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it starts with knowing what love language I prefer, what love language I want. And in that sense, it would definitely help to understand also, because I can, when I reflect on my life, I can see that my love language has differed from one stage to the other completely. Yes, the core is always intentional. The core is always valued for me, but how it's being expressed has changed from one place to the other in my life. So I think what I want to say is your love language is not set in stone, can change. And I feel it's part of our job is to know where it is at this stage in our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It evolves for sure. Yeah, I agree with you. And I feel just the way I would express it is that the core is the same. The core remains the same. However, how it evolves with time and age and experience and maturity, and the needs change.
Yeah.
Therefore, the love language will evolve with it. Now, the other thing I was thinking about was how do our love languages actually reveal some of our shadow aspects?
Yeah, definitely. So according to the attachment theory and Gottman Institute, basically they tell you, if we're going to talk science, they tell you our love language is based on what we were deprived from as kids more than anything. And again, this is where healing happens. I remember at some point I was with a therapist and she did the five languages of love for me. And she said, why love language is very important to you, why it's very high. I was so annoyed by the question. What do you mean? It's because I love physical touch. It's important to me. This is important because I don't need to justify it. I don't need to analyze it. And her question for me was very offensive in a way. Accept me the way I am. I don't have to justify why physical touch is important to me, especially when it's a therapist that we just met. So don't psychoanalyze my love language. It's fine. So please accept that the way it is.
I love that.
Looking back, it made a lot of sense at the time. And why in this part of my life I was feeling that my physical touch is the most important part. Moving forward or backwards, it was not. It was other things, and it's reflected other things that I needed at that phase in my life. So it's fluid, but again, I'll go back to what you said. The core is intentional. The core is value. Always is for me. So if we're gonna have this as the base to understand what is our core, to understand the intention behind it, and move up, this is where self-awareness happens. This is where relationship, when it comes to love language, happens too.
Absolutely. And taking it back to the five languages of Gary Chapman and the whole questionnaire and so on, it's what you just said. Years ago, you would complete the questionnaire and you'll have, for example, I don't know, words of affirmation, number one. And then 5 years down the line, it will change completely. No, I don't want those anymore. I have transmuted the shadow aspect of that love language, and I need something else. I am ready for gifts now.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
I guess you can use the Gary Chapman inventory, love language inventory, to figure out where in your shadows are you.
Yeah.
As opposed to thinking about it in terms of love languages.
The thing is that, yes, it's a stepping stone, as I mentioned, but for some reason, these days, as I'm 40, I'm looking at it and it's really pissing me off because love languages has been in different cultures expressing themselves in different ways. So, for instance, in Japan, there is the kiri, which is duty as love and basically acts of care without expecting anything. In Latin America, love is being loud. It's showing. It's celebrating. It's this. In Arab countries, it's your mom doing cutting fruits for you. Your dad filling up the tank for you. And I feel like, yes, while it is stepping stone, I feel like it was very dismissive of the cultural aspect too.
100%. 100%. You're right. Like in Egypt, food is our primary love language.
Yes, cooking is love language for us. I can imagine in Italy too. It would be
Yes,
love language. And
absolutely.
in ancient Egypt, love language is rituals. It's giving you honey. It's giving you a blue lotus. It's the rituals. It's creating a ritual with you that is ours. That's love language. So dismissing all of this is really irritating. And what I want to say in that sense is revolt against just the 5 languages of love that we know and try to examine what is your love language. Being with someone and your nervous system is regulated is love language.
Yes. Feeling safe is a love language. Being a safe space for someone is a love language.
Yes. Yeah.
Being present is the greatest present you could give anyone.
Being present as in you're not just there spending time, like I gave you my time. No. How present were you when you were giving me your time? So this is love language, is being present in the moment and presence in crisis, creative connection. Love language can be that we are creating for one another. Poetry is love language in a way. So it's a lot more than that. So silence is love language. Silent understanding is love language because silent can be very hard for some people. But if I know that my person or person I love, their love language is silence, I'm gonna give that to them with just being there to let the
Yes.
connections, like the list can go on and everyone can write their own love language, by the way.
You're absolutely right. They can design their own love language. And I think what all of these things have in common, if I was to really track the root of everything that you're saying right now, it's how present are you to me to understand what I need? That's really like the bottom line. And then it's up to you how creative you are in delivering that.
Yeah.
Know thyself is definitely the rule. Understand who you are, what your needs are, what are your love languages, and how you love to have love expressed to you. But also, when you are in a relationship, you have to also give the due diligence to figure out and understand your partners.
True.
Because oftentimes it will be very different and equally important.
So does this mean that I'm being the devil's advocate here? So is it my job to know my lover's love language, or it's their job to tell me? Because what if I hit and miss? How can I know?
This and that. So yes, absolutely communicate. Just like you also need to communicate to your partner exactly. Don't expect them to mind read you. Don't expect to guess. No. You have to be very explicit. This is my love language. This is what I love. This is what I need. Okay. And it doesn't matter what it says about my shadow parts. Okay. That's my issue to deal with. But this is the stage where I'm at in life, and this is what I need, and this is how I like it to be expressed. And tell me what's yours. Now, if you're doing it astrologically, it's easy. Go and do some homework. Google is rich in terms of search finding, what does the sun sign love and what does this Venus sign love and so on. And get creative. It's such a beautiful co-creator space to explore together, to explore each other's love language. That in itself becomes a love language.
Yeah, definitely.
My love language is finding out what your love language is and just to speak your love language.
Yeah, it's a very, very good thing. Is to master your own love language so that I can speak it fluently when I speak to you.
I think, well, is it a Virgo thing or is it like Virgo looks for the highest expression of something. Like it's the excellence standard of something. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in like a spectrum.
Yeah.
Right.
So in that sense, because that question I was asked a lot before, that what if the love language of my lover is not my language? Isn't that a bit of going against who I am to express love that I don't feel for someone so that they feel my love?
Well, I'd like to think that A, you do love this person. Otherwise, why are you even bothering? Right? So the love is there. Now, when the love is there, the love is love is an active word. It's not it's not a noun, it's a verb. You go out of your way to show love, to express love, to feel the love, to connect. That's really what love is about. And one part of it is getting curious about your lover. How does my lover? Because even when you talk about it sexually, let's talk about it sexually, right? Yeah. Of course, you're going to want to know what pleases your partner, how to please your partner. What are their areas where they love to be touched? How do they love to be touched? The pressure of how to touch them and the speed and so on. All of that, you don't just automatically do what you think should be done. No, you have to communicate with your partner and find out what pleases them. You want the same to be done for you.
So the way I understood the question when it usually is asked is, do I speak my language and my partners or just my partners? And I usually say, if your partner speaks Japanese and you speak Italian, you will not learn a little bit of Japanese to be able to communicate.
Yes.
So it will take you time to master Japanese. You might not be able to master it, but at least the effort of trying to speak their language is important as much as you want them to speak yours.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure the intention of love is there. I'm sure they love their partners, but sometimes they feel like when they're not speaking their own language, then it's not real, it's a bit fake. So this usually happens when, for instance, someone whose love language is physical touch and their partners is words of affirmation. So what if I can hug her and it would be very hard for me to say, good job.
This is why it's important to take this conversation deeper than the 5 languages.
Exactly.
Because the 5 languages are very limiting in terms of how you think about it. Is it physical touch, or is it how you make me feel when you physically touch me? Is it the thoughtfulness of the touch? Is it full on make-out session or sexual intercourse, or is it literally just like a kiss at the back of my neck?
Yeah.
That's enough to show me that you love me.
Yeah.
In moments feeling distressed.
This is the thing that, yes, it's about the intention. It's about what your partner or lover likes. And also, for instance, if it's very hard for you to speak words of affirmation, sounds can work too. Like, you don't have to say you smell really good. You can just say, does it help? She knows that you mean that you smell really good. So that takes it a deeper level without guilt, because this is sometimes is usually affiliated with love language that, okay, so now I know that she loves gifts, so I feel like I have to do this. I love her, but this is not my loving. So to remove the guilt from the equation and replace it with reality. So it's all about curiosity again.
Yes. Okay. Well, I have a question for you. What if, yes, like words of affirmation, like you said, and like the example that you used is maybe he doesn't say anything or she doesn't say anything, but makes a sound. What if that's enough for the other person?
Amazing. That's true. What if it's not enough? Now, this brings the question where I'm usually asked, what if it's not enough and I have to do more? And I don't feel like I want to do more. Where does that leave us?
Yes, where does it leave us? It leaves us in a curiosity space, sitting down and talking about what does enough look like for you. But also being very honest with yourself and asking, why is it not enough? What is missing for you?
Will anything be enough?
Exactly. Because like we said earlier, love languages, yes, they talk about needs, but they also talk about shadows. And like you said, they express the unmet needs of childhood. Now, if you're going to have your inner child running the show, that's not healthy either.
Inner child, or speaking to the archetypes, not just the inner child. So the inner child, if they are running the show, they will ask for something. your teenage self, if they're running the show, they will be asking for something else. Every archetype, if they are running the show at any part of your life, this is where the shadow comes in. So yeah.
Yes. And your inner child might want one thing and receive it, and then your inner teenager will be like, "No, that's rubbish. I don't want that."
Yes. Yes.
So it is the case. Sometimes the partner gives exactly what they asked for, and yet it's not enough. It's like, what happens?
Yeah. Yes. And this is where, again, self-awareness comes in, that maybe my lover is doing their best and giving the way they know. And sometimes we can give ourselves this, we can give ourselves the love that we need, or an archetype itself that follows. We know that the teenager wants some flowers, and my partner got her flowers. Amazing. Now, the inner child wants to have fun, so I can take her and actually go have fun. And it can be with friends, it can be with my own. And not everything needs to be satisfied by just one person because they happen to be lucky to be my lover. Can be satisfied from anyone, including and most importantly, himself.
Yes, absolutely. Now, we talked a lot about gifts. I've noticed that. Don't know why we've automatically gone into gifts.
It's like this is our love language at this stage of our lives.
Exactly. Buy me gifts. Show me love.
Go
Okay.
open cash, please.
Let's talk about the other things, like, for example, words of affirmation. I find this one to be tricky for a lot of people. What does words of affirmation look like? Some people feel like it's too much. Like, why are you being so needy? Why do I need to keep validating you and telling you, these words of affirmation? But the fact is, again, self-awareness bit is really important. Our need for words of affirmation is absolutely a need. We of course we need some kind of confirmation that we're doing good, that we're
Be
doing okay.
witnessed, that we are witnessed and celebrated, of course.
Yeah, accepted, loved, and so on. Especially when we're doing something different that we're not used to doing. It's understanding it from that level. Now, what if it goes too far? What if it's the shadow that's running the show of words of affirmation? What do we do there?
From both sides, you mean, from the giver and the receiver, because the giver can be, that's their shadow. They are overcompensating something. So
Yes.
also simping someone. So can be in that sense, communication.
And it sometimes can come across as inauthentic, to be honest.
Of course, definitely from both sides. And I think it's what if the answer to it is communication, and being specific as well. So a lot of times people would be saying, good job, thank you. Dig a little deeper, make it more intentional. So good job in making that meal. I felt really full afterwards and it tastes amazing. Or thank you for listening to me. I felt 1, 2, 3, 4. So as much as possible, try to make it specific to a situation when you are giving words of appreciation or affirmation.
And oftentimes I find, someone's need is words of affirmation, but the other person is really not good with words.
Yeah.
This is usually like a very common problem between couples. The other person is expressing themselves in the best way they can through acts of service, through gifts, through in their mind, through words of affirmation that they're capable or able to give. But the other person's like, no, that's not enough. It's not landing. It's not creating the memory burn, like you said. And I wonder if, in that case, when someone's really doing their best, I think out of love, like reciprocating that kind of love language is reading between the lines, reading the words of affirmation. They don't need to be spoken. They're written all over everything else that they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes we need to be loose around these concepts of love languages. They don't have to be so literal.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say, I think the key word today is curiosity. Is to always have that sense of curiosity to know what's my love language for today or for this period of time, and what's my lover's love language as well. What do they want and what do they need? And it's okay to be humble enough to do the work and actually go the extra mile, even if it doesn't sit with me and it doesn't land with me, it should land with the other person. And that's more important, that when they're happy, that makes me happy. When they feel loved, it, I should feel loved. So it will, I need to ask you something, because again, sometimes the other way happens, that someone's love language, quote unquote, is physical touch, and the other person is not. And sometimes love language as physical touch can be very hard or heavy for some people when it's asked on regular basis, or when it's expected on specific time or all the time. How would couple who are facing this deal with that?
So you're talking about desire discrepancy.
Maybe desire, it doesn't have to be sexual. It can be that someone wants to be have their hand held all the time, or just have their hand on their thighs all the time. And other people don't feel that that sometimes it's laboring for them, aside from that sexual element.
Well, if this was a case in my clinic, then I would be looking at attachment styles.
Mm.
The idea of, I want you to show me love. My love language is physical touch, and I need you to be touching me all the time. But you are adverse to that. You don't particularly want that. And it could be very off-putting when there is such a big gap between those needs and the other person's ability to express or fulfill them. So my question would be, is your need for physical touch coming from an attachment, like anxious attachment? What are you making it mean when they touch you? And what are you making it mean when they're not? Is there an anxiety there? So the anxiety will give us some answers to where this is coming from.
I like that. And while doing this, while exploring this, I advise couples not to judge one another. And on the contrary, if my partner is having anxiety attachment style and while they're healing that, I don't have to hold this against them, and actually can help them work through it, or give them what they need when they need it, when I feel like I can. From a place of love, not a place of I have to. Because it's so hard when someone is loved because they have to. And long-term relationships are not easy. And sometimes you will be doing things that you don't particularly like, but you know that it will make your partner happy. And that's a love language in itself.
Absolutely. And also, if it's linked to attachment style and anxiety or anxiously attached, are you avoiding it because you're avoidant? You're in attachment style. So equally, there is something here to look at for both of you.
Yeah.
What are you anxious about and what are you avoiding?
Definitely. And make it fun, like if one thing I can say to people is just make it fun. It's not just with your partners, with yourself as well, with your friends. Make it fun. Try to explore this field with them, because what is love language if it's not tuned to the person? It's like playing a guitar and it's out of tune, and you're expecting that tunes would come out perfectly just because you know how it goes. You need to tune it first before you do that, before you play it.
And personalize it. I used to know someone who wasn't particularly too keen on physical touch, but when they did hold hands with their partner, they would squeeze them 3 times, like to say, I love you. Go. So that the affirmation is there, the feeling of, yes, I'm connecting with you, I'm touching you, and I love you. And then they're letting go because I need my space.
Yes, definitely. I love that. I love that. Everyone can come up with their own thing. And a love language is codes. You are writing codes to one another, or you're understanding the codes of one another.
Exactly. You're encoding your relationships with very personalized codes to the two of you that only you two will understand. This is it. There's a reason why it's called a language. It's coded.
Yes. And language evolved, by the way. Languages don't stay the same across time.
Exactly.
It pains me when I see in Mother's Day in Egypt, whenever the kids buy the mother any gift. They usually buy things for the kitchen. And it pains me because maybe at some point in her life she needed that. Maybe. Now she might not need that. Are you attuned to what does she need or what she wants? Because needing something and wanting something are two different things sometimes. So maybe
Absolutely.
you notice that she needs something in the kitchen. But is that really what she wants?
Well, it's about their needs, isn't it? Like, I want you to cook for me. Here you go.
Exactly. So again, it goes back to what is it? Sometimes when we give the gift, whether it's a gift or the gift of words of affirmation, is it because I'm waiting to be affirmed? When I hug my mother, is it because I'm waiting for her to hug me? What is it that is coming out of you giving something? Is it something that you want in return? Or you're doing it
Yeah,
for the sake of love?
this is a very important point. Are you expressing a love language from your own needs or from their needs? Are you able to separate them? Because believe me, the language will be received in the energy it is given. So if it's off, the other person will feel it.
Yeah. Definitely. And the thing is that it's okay to understand that I hug that person because I want to be hugged. You know that in itself is good. And when you are giving that energy, that vulnerability of knowing I'm doing this for this sake, okay, just be aware of it. Just be aware of what it dictates in your relationship too.
Mm.
So I'll go back to self-awareness again, not just knowing your love language, but understanding where your shadow lies when you're giving something.
Mm. Yes. I don't think we speak enough or talk enough about the shadow side of the love language. And maybe we could certainly keep talking about it now, but I think we should dedicate to another episode on this as well. It runs so deep, especially.
For this season, I think that what we're doing is we're giving a taste of what are the things that we'll be diving deeper into as such. So this is definitely something that we'll be diving deeper in.
Oh, yes. I know that we think that the shadow side is always delicious, always worth diving to. Because the fun thing about figuring out your shadow is that it doesn't need to rule your life anymore. Expand beyond that. You can stop sweating the small things and actually start living and feeling the love that is there.
Yeah. I think that at this point, I was always scared of my shadows till I realized that they are actually there to be loved and seen and witnessed. So I made friends with them and we have a lot of fun and we talk a lot. And I think this is the best part is to see things that nothing is working against you.
Exactly. It's just trying to get your attention so that you find a better way of expressing it.
Yeah, that's all. So I think that we reached to the point of asking each other questions, and for the sake of time, we can go down to from 5 questions to 3 questions. So, wanna?
You haven't asked me yet, but I've been asking you.
Yes,
So
I
go on.
asked you about the archetypes, and I have here a couple of questions that in regards of the shadow. So I think we'll keep them to the shadow. But let me ask you, what's the most surprising way someone ever made you feel loved? Something that didn't fit into the traditional.
Okay. Sorry, I have to dig into my memory right now.
Yeah, take your time. Take your time. You see, I like how your eyes went up here, so that means you're remembering. Go ahead.
Something that was surprising, something that was really memorable. I mean, I know for a fact that there have been many,
Yeah, cool.
but the only one that keeps repeating itself in my mind right now is a gift my son gave me.
Sure.
And it was a mug that said, Mum in the world. I mean, I know it's so cliche,
It's not to you.
but it was the first gift he ever gave me.
How old was it?
I think he may have been about 16 or something. The fact that he used his own money to buy me something, and it was something like that. It's cute.
It
It was
is.
really, very meaningful to me.
Definitely.
So I asked you earlier, what was your favorite gift?
Yeah.
And edit this bit. So my question to you is, did you have ever felt that depending on the dynamic of the relationship that you're in, did your love language change in different dynamics?
Personally, definitely. In all aspects, not just romantic aspect. When the dynamic with friends change, that love language with them change. And it's not one size fits all for me. That if one gift is gifted to me or one love language is spoken to me by one person, it would mean it would land. Even if the other person, someone else said it to me or gave it to me, it might be a miss because the dynamics here are different than here. So, of course, and in the exact relationship as well, of course, dynamic would dictate a lot of
Yeah. And that just confirms how fluid the love language is. But again, the core is always the same.
Yeah.
So no matter, I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, that no matter what the dynamic is, you still insist on something that is thoughtful, something that is meaningful.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And I can sense it when it's wrong.
Exactly. That's the thing. We all sense it. We have this inner antenna that really helps us to really feel whether this is something that came from the heart or you were just ticking a box.
Yeah. And I think that's the witch archetype. She can sense that this is not.
Exactly. And just FYI, even men have it.
Of course they do. Of course they do. And this is the thing that when we speak, I want to make this some sort of a disclaimer that when we speak about this, we don't just mean women, we mean men, women, everyone. Men are, when they are attuned to all parts of them and all their archetypes, they can activate it properly and can detect it, and they know as well what works for them.
Exactly.
I would like to invite men not to think that because at some point in your life your love language was physical touch, you are cornered there, or you're just gonna have to be physical touch all across the way, every time, all the time. It's okay to feel that's fluid, that there is nothing wrong with you if your love language isn't physical touch at top 3. It can be 1, it can go 2, it can go 1 again. It's okay to admit that your love language is not physical touch, or your favorite love language is not physical touch at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this because a lot of men pride themselves in having physical touch as their love language. So I want to say, amazing. Just look into the shadow of it. Why? Is it physical? Is it hormonal? Is it something that you brag about? Or is it some sort of thermometer for you to understand how good you are? So play with it. It's an invitation to be open, that it's okay to not have physical touch as your number one love language.
Yes. And also appreciation that the even physical touch on its own, there's a whole spectrum to it. It's all range. It goes from, like I said, like a kiss on the back of the neck to full on sexual intercourse. And, I wonder if some people mistake physical touch as a love language with, I need sex.
Yes.
And I guess there needs to be an understanding that they can be separated. We're talking about a love language. So it doesn't always have to be sex.
Yeah, definitely. So my last question to you, can you think of a time when someone spoke your love language perfectly, but you still didn't feel love? What was missing?
It's this whole distinction between feeling the authenticity of the love language and feeling it's like it's just a checkbox activity. Like he just wanted to make sure that you're doing your job. And it will show. So for example, the example I can think of was when I was given a golden necklace. But because it felt like a tick box thing, because the design of it was just not me at all. And if I remember correctly, we did take it back and buy something else. I think. I can't remember. But yes, I mean, because I wouldn't wear it if
Yeah.
it doesn't feel right. If it doesn't, if it's not meaningful, then there's no value to it to me.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's just to clarify, it's not a rejection of a love language. It's a rejection or the way that love is being expressed. It's a rejection of this. For me, it isn't a love language. This is a language of ego.
Mm.
How I heard it.
Yeah.
You just wanted me to clap for your effort.
Yeah. Because at some point, when it's from ego, it can translate afterwards to, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Power. It's like exercising power over me in some way.
I used to play those games. I used to play those games at some point. And I forgive that version of myself. I understand where she's coming from. So yeah, we play those games sometimes as humans.
Yeah. And just also be very clear, there have been times where the exact same thing would happen, but I know for a fact that this is the best this person can do. Therefore, it would be received with so much love.
Yeah. It hurts when you know that the person can do more and they're not as well.
Yes. Yes. And again, it goes back to presence.
Mm.
Were you present enough to understand what I really want? I think this is the ultimate thing, isn't it, Cinderella? We all want to be so seen, so understood, and so accepted by the other person that it translates into everything that we do together.
Yeah, definitely.
It always boils down to the same thing. So same question, because I've run out of questions.
Right. Good question to me. Yeah, I had this one instant when someone did everything right by the book. Flowers, put in a perfect place, and got a gift. And we sat down and was very. Although that person spoke all the different languages of love in that same instant, and felt like we're ticking the box. And let me tell you that I felt very sorry and I felt guilty that didn't land with me. Although the person was doing their best, it just didn't. So yeah, and it was something that I needed to work on. And of course, again, the intention was not.
So did you feel that was that your shadow playing up, or was it on their side they weren't intentional enough for you? Both.
Because I know that that person wanted to show me love. They just did it. They went the extra mile without the intention to make me happy. It was to just, we did this. We did all of these things. And from my side, that whatever they were doing at that point in time, it was never going to be.
Which also makes me think of the whole Valentine's thing.
It wasn't Valentine's Day.
As the thing about Valentine's, I always feel it's so forced sometimes. And it's really funny when you look at it, even on the dating scene. So many people avoid dating just before, like for the first time, just before Valentine's or on Valentine's. It's like, I might expect to get a gift. It creates a fear and anxiety.
Yeah.
Do I do with this? And I just want to say, don't wait for occasions. That's a whole other love language, like surprise.
Yeah. Of course,
For no reason.
it's beautiful love language.
You love them.
Yes. Yes, I understand this, and I understand that it's not that everyone needs a day to remember love, because no. At the same time, what a beautiful occasion when you walk around and you know that everyone might be receiving some sort of love from different people, like finally some place where people can celebrate love all at once, all the time, whether it's Valentine or romantic or family or friends. It's just maybe because I grew up in a household where my mom would celebrate all occasions. And she would say, we are using any occasion to experience joy. So let's make up that occasion.
I love that. And it brings me to my last comment on this topic, in that if you want love to be spoken to you, you have to speak it fluently to yourself first.
Yes.
In everything you do. When you're cooking, cook with love. When you are working, work with love. When you are sleeping, sleep with love on your mind. Bring love into everything that you do. Make it the language that is the codes that are constantly emitting from you. And believe me, people will have no choice but to reciprocate.
Yes, definitely. When you say no, say it with love, not venting. When you say yes, say it with acceptance and openness, not because of pleasing. When you're asserting boundary, do it out of love, out of self-respect. When you are not able to assert a boundary, be kind to yourself out of love, not out of pity. So yeah.
Thank you. That's beautiful. All right. Well, thank you for listening to our episode today, to the very end. And remember to subscribe, share the love. Our love language is that you share the love. And do you have anything that you want to recommend, Cinderella?
Well, by the time this episode is out, maybe there will be some sort of a series or a booklet that would come out that would help you to express self-love as well. So let's see how we can work through this.
And if you're curious about your love language and you want to explore some more in this realm, get in touch with myself. I'm happy to give you an astrology reading. Or if you are interested in your erotic signature, your sexual language, also you can book an erotic signature report with myself from my website, www.writinthestars.com, and ultimately share the love. I love you. I love you so much.
I love you too.
We'll see you next week.